Okay, welcome back. What a crazy long time that's been. It's been about 8 months from my last video. Drop 44 has almost finished its first season of being a living history reenacting group, whatever you want to call it. We did the Overlord show, that was our first public show. Must get used to the camera being there and not there because I can see me there and that's the camera. We did the Overlord show, which was Southampton, Portsmouth way, somewhere. I don't know, I'm geography challenged, I don't know where things are. And we went with the option of buying a load of Zelt barns because they don't jump with pup tents, they don't have small walls, the usual malarkey we've covered before. We dug a load of trenches and we improvised German positions. Our Zelt barns were rather haphazard and confused all the German reenactors who we could hear saying things like, oh, these idiot German reenactors don't even know how to put up Zelt barns, because we were all dressed in civvies and not in our reenacting kits. It was the day before. And the Americans group next to us were like, oh, great, we've got Germans for neighbours. Until the morning when we all appeared in our M42s covered in crap and muck, and then everybody was utterly baffled until we explained the whole pup tent and small wall tent shortage, and then everything seemed to make sense. It did, of course, explode on Facebook, and I do have to name check Daniel Pickles, Haywood, I think it's Haywood, who said we had the Zelt agenda going on, which did make me laugh, and I've even quoted that in the book and all sorts of bits and pieces. Because we said we, as in the group, are going to use Zelt barns, and we don't care what anybody else uses. You can use washing up boxes for all we care. But there were no pup tents in the first days of Normandy, so we are going to use Zelt barns to keep all our crap and ourselves dry, because obviously, cashing out for 30 cows and garans and all this sort of stuff and all the paperwork, you don't want it to get soaking wet. It's just a ball ache. So we need to keep stuff dry. We went with Zelt barns. So we spent, I don't know, a few £100 on Richard Underwood's Zelt barns, and they did a fantastic job. Then the backlash came on Facebook, of course. So we started thinking, is there something else we could do? So we looked at QMI, and QMI sell the massive parachutes, complete with all the strings and all that malarkey. So we thought we'll have one. So we ordered one. It came in time for the Capel show, which we had no idea about. We found out about it at Overlord and were asked by quite a few people if we were going. We said if we can, we will. So we turned up at Capel, and I took along a pair of scissors, and the first thing I did was cut this parachute into two sections, much to George Abbey's horror. Sliced it in half. I had half. I improvised a shelter with that, and he improvised a shelter with the other. A couple of the other boys just used bits of canvas and odd bits and pieces to do their shelters with. We all dug foxholes, and we were fairly cosy for the weekend. It worked really well. Anybody not familiar with the Capel show, it will be a big show. It's on the up and up. I'd never even heard of it till I went there. Very impressed. The people that run it, they actually give a shit. It was very good. So it's definitely one to consider for anybody who looks into booking events for their groups. I then did Ramsey and Military Odyssey with the Shack Rats with not MD44. A nice laid back two events. We sat around in HBTs and an HBT cap, playing with 50 cows and wandering around talking to random people. Rams is always a favourite show of mine. It's always nice laid back. The staff there, they're lovely. They come and ask you if everything's okay. They come in and shake your hand at the end. They thank you for coming. Big kudos to them. They genuinely care. They really do. So I think it's the 80th or the 75th next year for their show. No, it can't be that many. That's ridiculous. 25th? 20th or 25th? Oh no, it's an anniversary for them running their show at Ramsey anyway. So we said we'll take MD44 down there and get use some of the foxholes that are in the tree line, and we'll make a nice display down there for them. Military Odyssey was an interesting one. I get to name check Andy Dickett's from the Screaming Eagles now. We were... I woke up one morning, happily asleep in my little Zelt barn tent, and I thought, I recognise that voice. Who the hell is that voice? So I flipped back the flap, and the guy from Soldier of Fortune was standing there. I can't remember his name. It might be Nigel. I could be making that up. No idea. He's the guy that's always in charge. He's always at the shows. And I said in my usual friendly way, "Hey, I want a word with you." He looked a bit sort of perturbed, and I said, okay. So I got dressed and I crawled out my little hole, and I said, your raincoats. And he looked a bit, taken back, and I said, they're fucking amazing. I said, you can't fault them. They are really, really, really good. If you compare them to original, they are pretty much spot on. I said, they're fantastic. Oh, and he looked really sort of pleased. I said, I did a unboxing video on YouTube, and I mentioned them in the book, and he looked a bit confused. He said, hold on a minute, I've got my display copy. So I went into the tent and I grabbed my book and I showed him, and I flicked to the page, and he went, wow, can I take a picture of you with your book? If you really want to. Like I'm just an idiot who wrote some shit down. I've forgotten it all, so he took a picture and off he tried. Hour later, Andy Dicketts comes walking down towards our display wearing a Soldier of Fortune raincoat. I said, Dan, want a word with you? What's up, Andy? He says, the guy Soldier of Fortune wouldn't stop talking about your their raincoats and you and your book, and you recommending them. Now, the twofold, that's funny enough in itself, but Andy knows who I am. So, when somebody says, Dan McCann, yeah, okay, he knows who I am. Now, for the 99.9% of the rest of the public are going to go, who the hell is Dan McCann and what goddamn book? So, yeah, it did make me smile that the guy from Soldier of Fortune is telling people all about me and the raincoat review and things. And when I was in there near the end of Military Odyssey, I was just sort of loitering around, looking at some of their stock, and I could hear him doing exactly the same thing. And he mentioned me, and I said, hey, I want commission. He sort of looked at me, chuckled, grinned, realised who I was again. But yeah, very odd that people seem to know who the hell I am. I mean, why on earth would you want to know who I am? Especially listen to me. I've got tea, by the way. Odyssey, very good show. It was nice and hot. Come back with interesting tan marks from my vest. I look like a right idiot. Nothing unusual, I know. After Odyssey, we did one event at... Oh my god, my memory is really impressive. Oh, Victory Show. Oh, who doesn't love the Victory Show? Great show. Got there, booked in, met the other guy who runs the group with me, and nobody knew where we were in the woods, so we sort of chased them down. Eventually got to the bottom of where we were going to be displaying, and started to unload all the stuff. Then George and Russ turned up, and things got a bit weird again. They come over and said, you'll never guess who we've been talking to. You're right, I won't. The security guard. What? What do you mean? What? The guy in charge of the car park. Okay. What? He thinks your videos are brilliant. I just said, he's deluded then. Lots of giggling, and they went, yeah, you're famous. So lots of continuous piss taking happened for quite a while about how famous I am. What utter nonsense. Any idiot can make these videos, any idiot can complain about shit, and that's all I do. Again, writing books, writing shit down. I'm sorry, anybody can write shit down. So yeah, lots of giggling, lots of piss taking. All the rest of the guys arrived, more piss taking from me being super famous and an expert. Well, they know I hate that term. Not expert in goddamn anything. I've never met an expert in anything either. Anybody that tells you they're an expert, ignore them, walk away, turn off your ears. It starts getting dark. We've got everything set up. We're sort of sat around having a few beers, and we hear some voices in the distance. Obviously, looking at our sign we've got at the group sign, which says Mr. Op 44 and the rest of that sort of shit. And and it was something along the lines of, hey, that guy from YouTube is in this group. Oh. Of course, they all start giggling. I walk over. Yes, I'm the arsehole from YouTube. Introduce myself. Lots of smiling. Then I worked out, it's Ellie, Airborne Ellie, and a couple of the other guys. Right, hi, had a nice chat with him. And again, it's lovely to put faces to names, even though you've seen their face on YouTube, on Facebook. It's just a bit different. It's nice to meet people. They go on their way. More piss taken from the guys, which went on the whole weekend, because it seems like, weirdly, lots of people know who I am. Why they would want to know who I am, I don't know. Oh, I jumped ahead something. At Odyssey, I was talking to... Actually, I was in Epic's trade store with Russ from the Shack Rats, just talking random things, looking over stock. Spotted their wire cutters, fantastic. And I said to the guy, do you mind if I take a picture of your wire cutters for a book project? He went, yeah, sure. Then sort of inquired as to what the hell it was all about. I said, well, nobody makes reproduction wire cutters. You can get original cases for them. You can get 938s, you can get 928s. So is it 28s? 32. I can't remember. The difference is the seam along the top. I'm actually weirdly. So that's the camera's there. That's the early one. Doesn't have the seam. That's not a 1938. It's the slightly early one. I made 22, 28, 24. I don't know what the number is, but that's the early one. Doesn't have the seam. They will be dated later as well. I think that's 44 dated. So don't be fooled by the year on the back. Again, no difference. They were both used. So start chatting to him about wire cutters, the book, and then like I see a set of M42s in the distance, and I sort of talking to the guy like this and looking at them and talking to the guy and looking. I said, who makes them? He said, oh, we do. There are new ones. They're not even on the website yet. Oh, okay. He then introduces himself as Adrian, who I've been talking to on Facebook. Of course, I've been talking to him. And he wanted to get us down to a couple of shows. Great, fantastic. And again, we love being invited to things. You know, it sort of means that we're doing something right for a change. Yeah, especially on me, you know, my insulting videos. That's better. So look at the M42s, take some pictures, go over them, and I must hold my hand up here because you know I do make mistakes, as most of you are fully aware. I said, hey, the pockets look a bit too like not straight. They were really slanting. I said, it just sits a bit too much to me. They said, okay, great. Anything else? So I went through a few other little bits and pieces. I don't, you know, that's good. That's okay. I don't like that. And the label was red and black. He said, yeah, we didn't do that label. The manufacturer did that on their own accord. Little red and black label on the top. It's really cute, but easy to remove. So it's no big deal. But if they can sort out the little things, they want a real good contender for you know, giving Sofa a sort of nudge over a little bit. And I think. Because you know, obviously Adrian's a reenactor, that he cares and wants this thing to be as good as it can be. So if they do tidy it up, then you know they've got a really solid product, and it's the same ballpark price as Soft, not something fucking ludicrous like World War II Impressions do. And again, let's not go on the rant on their shit yet. I mean stock, sorry, not shit. Shit, yes. Great chat with Adrian at Epic. Had a talk about all sorts of bits and pieces. Said I'll put stuff in the book about their M42, about their wire cutters and other bits and pieces. Book version 3, because the first print run just went boom, out the door, gone. In fact, I think almost all of them had actually sold before they even arrived to me. Made 2 or 3 little tweaks and reprinted again. And these, I'll just invent words now. You know what I was talking about. They all sold over 3-4 weeks ish. So we said, right, we need to do version 3. There's a whole lot of stuff to chop, there's a whole lot of stuff to come out. Apologies, Loz. That's been removed, and there's loads and loads of bits and pieces going in, so it's being bulked out further, so the price will just be a tiny bit more, but maybe not. I see what I can wangle with the printers for a price wise. Now at Victory Show, we always have our, this isn't the one, our copy on display, and it says Mistrop 44 display copy, you know, have a look. And lots of people went through it. Lots of people said, hey, this is great, this is brilliant, we need more books like this. Yeah, I agree, we need books like that for us, not just history books. We need books that say, hey, 9 out of 10 guys did this, that one guy did that. So if you have 10 guys, great, you've got a ratio of what people should do. Obviously a history book shows you lots and lots of pretty pictures, usually taken by photographers who take pictures of guys that are doing something different. Because who wants a picture of a rifleman stood there with a grand, all his webbing, that look identical to every other guy? So they tried to take pictures of things that were more interesting than the rest. I mean, how boring would their job be otherwise? So talking to the 82nd guys that were camped next door to us, the 505th, who seemed really excited to have a book for them, I said, great. Let's take some pictures of you guys, let's get some information, let's put one together, you can sell it, you know, and let's have more out there for us. I think it was Russ and Mark from the Shack Rats suggested it to, her name just escaped me, Nellie Louise, that's what she is on Facebook. I almost used her real name and I can't do that because I'll get in trouble. About doing a WAC and an ANC one. I haven't spoken to her yet, but she seems really keen, so I need to make contact and do that. And there's a couple of other women I know who also do WAC and ANC and that sort of stuff. I know absolutely nothing, so it will be their input into the content. I will lay it out, and again, they can sell it, I can sell it, whoever can sell it. You know, let's just get more stuff for us. Rob and Rod, both from Mr. 44, want to do a glider troop book. Fantastic. Again, great. Let's keep producing these books for us. So I know they do 327th. Yes. But again, they got a lot of information about the 325th. I don't even know what the other glider regiments are. I'm not even going to pretend to know. Also need to do a book about the 8th Air Force with Russ. He's pretty much written the entire thing. It's just some tweaking of some pictures and writing some captions that he needs to do. Then we'll lay it out, and then Russ's book for the Shack Rats will be done. I don't know what it's about. Aeroplanes is the best thing I can tell you, to which I have no interest whatsoever. But I said, yeah, sure, I'll lay it out. You can have the file, you can print it, do what you want. I don't want to be involved, you know. I'll just do the pretty, making it look nice thing. Other things from Mr. 44 you probably missed out on. Obviously the book. I've got a few. We did a copy of the very amusing Sex, Hygiene and Venereal Disease booklet. Absolutely hysterical. It's almost free to print. I think it costs you a couple of quid. Again, I don't want to make a fortune from this stuff. Let's just get stuff that we can use. French. Inside is absolutely spot on. I'm always looking the wrong way. Apologies. And to go with the French one is the phrase book. Now, lots of you will have a copy of that because my printer sent it damaged. It all got battered to hell in the box. So I said, hey, you need to reprint this. These are fucked. They said, no problem. We'll reprint them. I said, what should I do with the old ones? They said, bin them. I said, I'm not going to bin them. I'm going to give them away for free. So we took a whole load to Military Odyssey, and everybody walked past with a decent impression. Whether they're anything in Europe, I said, here you go, have a phrase book. People were absolutely amazed. People get given away for things for free in this hobby, obviously, because it's a real cheap hobby. Took load to Overlord and did the same thing. Went through all the Overlord victory show. Went around the 505th guys that were our neighbours, handed out a shed load to them, and just kept handing them out all weekend. Different people from different units that we knew or didn't know. Of course, each one gets one of our brainwashing leaflets to, hey, consider joining us. You know, even if they don't, it still directs people towards the website, so it's all good in our eyes. Can labels. I hate printing things because it's so expensive. It never has that nice shine to it. Doesn't look like a real can label. So I think I used 3 that were on in line that everybody's seen before. One's a sweet corn one, one's hominy and whatever the hell hominy is, and then I did about 20 using original cans and laid them out. Loads of generic stuff: tomatoes, cherries, peas, obviously. I always said beans. I've only got 3 to hand, but we keep them cans empty so we can just use them as trench litter or dumped around all the foxholes and everything. And the amount of people, public walking past, I went, hey, what's on that can? Sweet corn. Oh, that's cool. What's on that corn? Salmon. What's on that one? Oh, that's Campbell's soup. Absolutely amazed. The public are weird. We know the public are strange in this hobby. And then, of course, the questions come around it. Did you actually eat all of those? Yes, that's right. I ate 20 cans of food the first night. Yes, it's a real fire. If you don't believe so, put your hand in it. Yes, I really sleep in this hole in the ground. Same stuff. Always the same questions every show. You got to love it. After the French and those, I will do the German one because they've been really well received. I want to do the Dutch one. I am trying to win a whole lot of manuals at a auction in the States. If I can get them, then it has Dutch, a complete set of Dutch. It has all sorts of other languages, so I will keep on making these things because they're fairly easy to do. They're not that expensive to print. I think I've got a pair of those about £8 on eBay. I don't even know. It might be £8. I don't know. If you contact me, I'm sure I can sort you out with some discount. Just ping me through the website or something. And the more you buy different shit, the cheaper the shit can get, because, you know, postage is pretty much the biggest problem in printing stuff like this. Coming after those, and a long way down the line, because I have a whole mountain of shit to deal with. More field manuals. We were trying to cover when you salute, what you salute, who you salute, and the weird regulations around it. It's only a tiny booklet, so it'll be a real nice dirt cheap one. Some nice useful pictures in there, and I would say my guys will maybe learn who to do, to salute, and when and what. But as they can't remember left from right when they're doing rifle drill, I'm not going to hold my breath. Useful one for Maxi in our group, the radio operator. I know a lot of people are after radio manuals, so I will get that one done. TM11454. Now, I often get asked to make manuals, and whenever this happens, they are usually, it's like counting grains of sand. It's that exciting. I've done arc welders. Jeeps for some people are like the most exciting things in the world. To me, their manuals are dull as dishwater. So, but get this one. This has got to be close to the arc welder I was asked to make. It's mechanics tools. Wow. I would like to make the joke riveting, but but I know nobody's going to laugh except me, so I promise I won't say that. And then at Odyssey, going around the trade stores, I picked up a copy of FM 531 Landmines and Booby Traps. Now this thing covers everything. Shells in the road with planks on for booby traps, German telemines, clockwork mines, fuse pencils, grenade traps, how to lay out minefields. It is chocked full of information. Annoyingly, it doesn't say how many pages it is, but I think I had a count and it's 300-ish. So that's fine, that's easy enough to do. I want to get it bound the same way though, so it might be a case of me printing every single page, or getting every page printed individually, hole punching them and finding these weird doohickey cord spiky things. But it's all doable and it's on the list, because that one I think a lot of people will get something from, even collectors, because there's so much rammed in there. Right, other than that, we're pretty much caught up really quickly on everything you've missed the last 8 months, which I wish that all happened and was as easy to do as quick as that was to say. One little gem from Overlord. No. Jesus, why can't I remember the name of these shows? Victory was getting these silver watch pieces. Wrong way, there we go. And they came from Gary Howard. And if you recognise that name, it is because he wrote America's Finest, and his name should be on. There we go, Gary Howard. And there's a picture in the back which I saw, and he doesn't really look like that anymore because he's aged quite a lot from when he wrote these. But really nice guy. I had a nice chat with him about bits and pieces. Yeah, absolutely sound. I got a load of Quartermaster books which go through all the kit and how to order them, and I mean some of it's quite dull, like belts and buckles and bits and pieces, but there are some real gems in amongst all the boring stuff, so I'm sure they will be useful for something. I was asked if I was going to reproduce them. I'm not sure because they're quite page heavy, they'd be costly to do, and I don't think the price I could print them for will be worth the price that I would have to charge people, but I'll have a look and see what magic I can work. However, enough of me waffling. I know why you're all here. You're hoping I'm going to review another video, and I loaded up my list of YouTube links that people have sent me, and my god, there's still bloody loads of them to go through. And I've loaded one up there. It's behind me at the moment. So, well, it's got, I mean, I can say what it is because it's some guy with his arms folded staring at me the whole time. I wish I could turn it around. Actually, I can just move me, can't I? If I stick me in the corner, you'll see this angry man who's looking at me. Okay, let's do that. And how to research for World War II reenacting. This could be good, it could be bad. Yeah. It's got MG42, we don't know if it's a Yugo one or not. The Pacific. What else? What's going on in there? Okay, yeah, some nice little bits and pieces tucked away behind him. Okay, he likes his Third Reich stuff, but again, nothing wrong with that. MG42, gorgeous, still prefer that over the 34. God, there's an argument for anybody. Okay, let's hit play and see what happens.
Hey guys, today I want to make a different kind of video where I talk about a concept and really just teach you about understanding that concept rather than talking about something very specific. So everything that I'm teaching you today is going to be taught through my perspective, through my experience, through my understanding of this concept. What is this concept? This concept is how to do research. Everyone has their own way of doing research.
Yep.
Everyone thinks that they have a alternative way or a better way or a worse way to study and learn things. I am merely going to teach you how I learn things and
Yeah,
what I
fair
do
enough.
to learn things. And maybe this can help you. Maybe this can help you if you're a new guy, if you're an older guy. You know, there are things that we learn about every day.
So, a new guy or an older guy? Does he mean like new to the hobby or been in the hobby a while? I'm old.
And not just facts that we learn about, but we also learn about doing things on a regular basis. There are things and skills that I have recently picked up. I am a history major at my school. I'm actually just about to graduate, so I've basically finished all of my studies, especially when it comes to history. I've no more history classes for me. I've done it. You know, I've been doing history as a focus for 4 years now in my school, and within
I don't like the. Again, this is me being an arse. It's. I get this feeling it's heading towards I'm an expert. I've studied it. I've studied it all. I know it all. This is. I don't know. I'm not keen on where this is going. But again, somebody sent me this video for a reason. I'm sure it will become clear.
in history, I focused primarily on World War II.
Good.
I've kind of branched out a little bit, but the main focus
Well,
is
in fairness, to understand World War Two, you have to understand World War One, and also the bit in between when the Third Reich comes to power. That's not really World War Two, but you still have to understand it.
World War II. And I have done a lot when it comes to learning about how to study. You know, I have gone through the rigors. I've picked up lots of skills on how to study quick, how to find the information you need, etc., etc., etc. And today I'm going to teach you how to do that for yourself. So there are lots of different ways to learn about information.
Absolutely.
Everything that you do, you can learn something from it, even the bad ways. And there are bad ways to learn.
Oh, God,
I'm going to give you an example here. When it comes to World War II reenacting, and when it comes to doing research for that, a lot of people...
Oh, fuck me. I changed my mind. I fucking love him. Yeah, absolutely. This is the biggest problem in this hobby now, is that and Shaving Mrs. Ryan. Not so much the Pacific. It didn't have that big wallop impact that those two did. But bloody Bob, it transformed... I know I've said it before. It transformed the hobby overnight. Everybody ran a Soldier of Fortune. Bought a jumpsuit, a pair of jump boots, and a white Dakota t-shirt. And that was all they needed. They didn't need anything else. They were then paratroopers. Yeah, so, I mean, how many times do I hear from the public, oh, like that bit in Band of Brothers? No, it's a TV show. Yes, it's based on history. Just no.
Pick up their favorite movie and they'll watch it and they'll see something that they like, or they'll see what they're wearing and they'll say, oh, well, that's what they wore, right? Yes and no. They certainly did wear the things that are being depicted in a movie, but the movie depicts things in a very generalized and oversimplified sense.
Yep, absolutely.
So their
but like the Battle of Carentan, I think it lasts about 5 minutes in Band of Brothers, where it was just a bit longer than that.
Reference is not merely as, I guess, academic as we can strive for. So yes, technically you can copy everything you see in a movie, especially the newer ones, and be correct. But you're limiting yourself to a very high extent, and you're limiting yourself to such an extent that people will see right through it, and they'll know that you copied it from a movie.
Yep.
So there are two modes of research. There is the research through paper, and there is research through the internet. I'm going to show you both of those, but before we get into the internet, I'm going to show you how I do research through books. Books are the best way to do research in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But books don't always have all the answers. And just like with the internet doesn't have all the answers. Sometimes you have to go to books. So using both is really...
Well, the problem with the internet is, as you know from me, a lot of it is opinionated. It's a website written by somebody who has manipulated the history that they want into what they want people to believe and see. So just because it's written down... This also goes for books, don't forget. Just because written down does not mean it's factual.
Beneficial to your studies. And
just the internet is a lot worse than books, obviously, because every idiot in the whole world can have a website and have free reign of speech on Facebook with no consequences. So yeah, and you will get the guys who have their opinion and they're going to shout you down until you shut up or agree with them. Facebook is absolutely ripe for that, and I could name 50, 60 people who do exactly that on Facebook, and you see it all the time. I don't, because I've blocked them all. And then they're really confused as to why I blocked them. Go figure.
And you can apply this information I'm giving you to whatever you do if you just want to study a subject or if you want to use it for reenacting, whatever is on the table, but this is going to have a reenacting focus. So when it comes to books, there are what I consider to be 3 different types of books. There are primary sources, obviously, there are secondary sources, but there are more particular things. Like, for example, a textbook on a very particular subject or a reference book.
Yeah.
A reference book is a mix in between primary and secondary sources. Primary sources obviously are sources that come from the source, that are from the era, that you can read and learn and take information from the era and interpret things yourself. Secondary sources are people who have taken those primary sources and sort of rearranged everything to be easily understood by you, the reader, so that you don't have to interpret things yourself. That's one way of looking at it. Of course, not everything is absolute. I'm just speaking in generalities based on what I've learned throughout my time in university. But the reference books are, for example, picture books. They just show pictures of the stuff and you use them.
And this is the biggest problem in the hobby, is that people always look for that one picture that's interesting. They build their impression around that one picture with skis and a hard hat, and then go, well, I've seen one picture, I've seen a picture that shows he's doing that, so they must have done it. Please don't justify this.
You know, they're not primary sources because you're not looking at the primary source itself, but they're not secondary sources either because there is no narrative or interpretation behind it. So it's really kind of in that gray area. But anyway, what I mean by that is, for example, Osprey Books. These are a great example of research. You know, for example, this one, German combat equipment. It will tell you the different types of equipment that was used.
Yeah,
and sometimes it'll have a narrative behind it. Like sometimes they'll say like, oh yes, the German soldier was ill-equipped, and that's what you got to watch out for is when it uses narrative speech. So when it says something is like the Germans were ill-equipped, but it doesn't show you
what Germans and when. I mean that's such a dangerous statement with somebody coming into the hobby. It's never been a big fan of the Osprey books. There is some good bits in amongst all the waffle and the lovely colourful drawings, but a drawing is not anything you should use to base your impression around. I mean, it's a drawing. I remember one of the guys from the old group saying, well, look, this shows that the LMG team all have pistols. It's a drawing. He drew them with the pistols. If I got scissors and cut that out, does that mean then they don't have them?
Numbers, that's when you got to be a bit careful, and you just got to, either take their word for it or look into it a bit further. So if I say, for example, the German soldier was practically starving because his meal or the amount of calories he received every day was less than that of an average American today, that's definitely an argument, but it can be easily misinterpreted. So you got to be careful for that when you're looking at this stuff. So this is a reference book. Another reference book.
I wouldn't even classify it as a reference book. It's just a thing that exists.
Specific to what I was just talking about is this one, Deutsche Soldaten, and it literally just shows you pictures of the stuff. And while that's great, you don't really have a whole lot to do with this. Like, this is great. It tells you what the stuff is. It tells you what it looks like.
Yeah, it has its use for somebody coming in and they want to be a German whatever. As long as it says, it shows all the items put together, they know what boots went with what jacket, went with what trousers, went with what shirt, then great, it has a definite place for somebody coming into the hobby. If you've been in it a while, then it probably isn't that useful, although the colour pictures are nice. It shows you how original items would have faded, it shows you where they would have picked up all the most damage, so it definitely has a real use.
But you've missed out on how you use that information. I'm going to tell you how to use that when we get to the internet phase. So reference books are a great source. I'm not going to list off every single reference book that I have just because that's a video of its own if I make the video. But reference books are a great deal. Those Osprey books you can pick up for $10 a piece. Yep. I know the Deutsche Soldaten one, that's like $60.
The reason they're cheap.
So It just depends on where you look, but it's a good investment all the way around.
Nope.
The next source is obviously primary sources. Primary sources are fantastic. Memoirs are great because memoirs...
See, I know I disagree with almost everything anybody ever says. Primary sources can be a good reference. It depends when they were written. If they're written close to the time, they're going to be more accurate. Also, when you tell a story about yourself, you very rarely have any of it placed in a negative way, because you don't portray yourself negatively to other people when saying something. It's always done in a positive way. So just because somebody tells a story doesn't mean it's 100% factual. We as humans, we do that unintentionally. I'm not saying these veterans or whoever tells you purposely lies, but you manipulate the story that you're telling to make yourself seem either not stupid, you did something better than you really did. You just over-exaggerate or undercompensate, whichever way around that would be. I'm no linguist. I just write books. So although it's a primary source, you have to still go, right, one, did they remember that accurately? If we were talking 8 years ago and it was only written recently, are they remembering it all correctly? Have facts got muddled up? So you have to take this into consideration.
Can talk about things in a way that you never really thought about before. It can also create relatability. It can also teach you something. For example, I read a book about a German soldier in the 1st SS Division, and he talked about how when aircraft were coming in, they would put the machine gun on his shoulder, and the guy behind him would fire at the airplane to try to shoot the airplane down, right? And that's typically what you think of. But a detail that he mentions in his memoir is that the positioning of the soldier who's got the machine gun on his shoulder is very crucial. And it provides anecdotal evidence for something that you can portray within that particular unit. The standard is, you have the guy and he's facing this direction, the machine gun's on his shoulder, and the guy behind him is also facing the same direction. Well, in his book, he referenced how one guy got scared because he saw the airplane coming at him, and he flinched, and the machine gun ended up shooting himself in the head. It was an accident. And one thing that they did was they decided to take the guy that's holding the gun and turn him away from the airplane. So anecdotal evidence, but it's still crucial to how we reenact.
And do you know what? What he said makes exact sense. But is this one guy and his LMG team that did this, or is this everybody in a squad? Platoon, regiment, because again, you're going to get a lot of things that everybody did, and people are going to say something like, we all did X, Y, and Z, and they probably all did. You're also going to get somebody who says, I did, and it might have only ever been him that did it. So you have to pick and choose carefully what you take on board from these primary accounts.
Is those little bits and pieces that you can pull from it. But textbooks, or not textbooks, but manuals are great. This is the most famous one that reenactors use now is the Rybert manual. It's a manual that tells you everything you need to know about being a German soldier.
Yeah, so for Americans, it's FM 21100, the basic field manual. Yeah, and it covers. It's not as big as that. Wow, that's a monster of a manual. But then I can see why the Americans have a whole series of them.
World War II. But there's other manuals out there, for example, Exerzieren und Kommando. This one talks about how to do march and drill and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How proper marching works. So original manuals are always great. Another thing to keep in mind...
Only if you speak German, though, of course.
...is that language guides
I had a copy of that.
Very helpful, because you can type something in on Google Translate, and it'll tell you what something is. For example, if you type in bayonet on Google Translate, it will literally come out to bayonet with a J in German on Google Translate. But that's not what they called it at the time. They called it a Seitengewehr. So, things like that. It's very crucial information. Now, of course, you also have those books that I was talking about, memoirs or books that are secondary sources from a legitimate author, whatever the case may be. If you ever read a book, I don't care what kind of book it is. If you ever read a book, and I recommend books be your go-to.
Absolutely.
arm yourself with a highlighter. Go into the book
Yeah.
and highlight.
Highlighter, packs and packs of Postit notes. I mean, my desk is festooned with Postit notes because these things I make. I mean, if I pick up any of my books, let's just grab. Oh God, let's just grab a couple from my shelf. You can see how many Post-its just stick out from the corners. I mean, there's just millions of them, and it's notes on everything. Depending on the book, the colour could mean a different thing.
Highlight every single thing that you find interesting, or that you learned,
Yeah.
or that you want to reference again in the future. You know, for example, this is a book that I recently read. It's called Britain and France in Two World Wars. One of the things that I find really interesting is the relationship between Charles de Gaulle and Winston Churchill. So that's just a little bit of something about me. I'm not just a German reenactor. I find a lot of Allied stuff pretty interesting too. But this is a book that I reference a lot when it comes to that particular field. And what I mean by highlight everything is I literally mean go in and with a highlighter, highlight every single piece of information that
your
you
books.
find interesting, or that you
Make
learn
them
about,
your
or that
books.
you want to reference again. Because then you can just
Absolutely.
go back in and maybe you just take in 30 minutes or an hour and you just flip through the pages of an old book that you haven't read in a while, and maybe you'll come across something that's highlighted and you'll realize, oh wow, that was actually really good. I remember now. So always highlight things in books.
And do it as you go the first
You'll
time you
thank me
read it.
later, trust me.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
I have a lot of books. They're all highlighted to crap. I wish I started this trend earlier. It's something I actually learned about a year ago.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I never thought about it. You know, you can't write in books you buy. Then you think, why not? You know, paper is exactly designed for that purpose.
So that is books. Let's go to the internet.
Uh-oh. Jesus. Oh, and we get a free advert. Lucky us.
When it comes to advertising online, most people...
Piss off.
Okay, so we've moved to the computer. I apologize that the angle is a little weird. Let me see if I can angle this just a little bit better. So we're on my computer now, and what I'm going to show you is a couple of things. So the internet is obviously the go-to when it comes to doing research, but I'm going to show you how dangerous it can be, and I'm going to show you how to do it properly if you decide to use the internet, because the internet is great and all, but the internet doesn't have all the answers. For example, if you look up how to properly march on the internet, or Waffen-SS squad composition on the internet, you're not going to find anything.
No.
And it's a shame. You know, there's the old Wehrmacht awards forums, which are rich in information, but unfortunately, they are hard to access and navigate. And the pictures are too far gone, unfortunately, which is really just sad, because there was a lot of reference on there. You know, there was a time where veterans would actually use virtual, or not, they would use the Wehrmacht awards forums, and they would post stuff themselves. And this is, of course, about 15 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that
But
forum.
nowadays, we just resort to Googling things and looking things up. So if you were to just type in World War II German jacket on Google,
58 billion
I don't
results.
use Google just because I don't like Google, but this is just an example here for what most people use. You're going to come up with this stuff, and you know, it's really easy to just go on Google and type in World War II German jacket.
Yeah, but this is just how to
buy
use
the
Google,
first thing
which
you
is a
see.
skill
Sportsman's
itself.
Guides, $179. Great. Oh, $89, even better. Wow, cool. You know, that's great. But how do you know that something is correct? How do you know? Well, when you type something in on Google, you're either going to find reproductions, and typically the worst reproductions, or you're going to find the completely wrong thing. You know, I type in World War II German jacket, and I get
Yeah, but you haven't specified anything.
World War II German flying jacket, or I get a splinter camo thing, or I get something that's just completely unrelated. So you got to be careful when you're just typing things in like this. I mean, this is a great start. It's a start, but we can do better than this.
Yeah, put in some keywords.
The next thing that a lot of people will do is they will go on Google and they'll type in World War II reference, and typically they'll be brought to the Der Erste Zug page. This is where I actually started with my research. Let's see, article section, Lanzer items. This is a section on their website that talks about all sorts of different things that the soldiers had. All of this information is easily attainable in the manuals. You know, it's nothing new in my opinion in terms of being able to do research, but this is where I started. This is where a lot of people start. They go on Der Erste Zug and they learn the basics about a couple of different things.
Okay,
but again,
you're losing me
we
here
can
with the
do
internet
better.
shit.
how can you do your own research? How can you make your own determinations? Well, let's go to another website called Virtual Grenadier. Virtual Grenadier is a website that has things listed for sale, original stuff, but the pictures are detailed to where you can do what I call...
Okay, looking at the pictures on the bottom when you scroll through, he talks about the internet a hell of a lot, and we all know what the internet is. If you don't know how to use the internet, then how the hell are you watching this? Yeah, so I think whoever sent me that link, and I don't record who sends me these links, is obviously for the Band of Brothers reference near the start. Yes, very good. He has he has a very valid point. Don't use Bob Saving Private Rahman as a reference for anything reenacting living history. It's just garbage for that. It really is. I'm not going to play the rest of this one. Instead, I am going to stop here, and in a second I will review a couple more, just so you get the misfortune of getting a double dose from me in one go. Yeah, I guess I'll be back shortly. Laters.